actually a Christian holiday because
Yeah. It's
Well, I think it was
when we've got the seven
planned
branch
to be an answer to
the seven
Christmas.
branch candlestick on our altars.
But
So
then Christmas is the answer to the Feast of Saturn, right? That's it. They
Well,
all
actually,
replace each other.
it's funny because it's much more complicated. I never realized how complicated the history
No, I
behind
know. There's more
Christmas
to it.
is. Because one of my friends, one of my friends at college, he was he was making fun of Christianity, and he was kind of sitting there, and he was like, well, Christmas, you guys just like picked another holiday and put yours in the place of it, like.
What is he, a pagan?
Yeah, he's a pagan.
Sworn
And I looked at him and I was like, well, of course we did. And he was like, he didn't expect me to agree with him. I was like, well, actually, it's more complicated. But I was like, don't you think that's good advertising? I was like, wouldn't a good businessman do the same thing? And he was like, actually, yeah. And I was like, so we're pretty intelligent, aren't we? And he was like, and it was kind of not the response that he expected me to get angry. And I was like, yeah, isn't it awesome how we did
that? Like a strip mall that's already getting a lot of business.
Yeah, exactly. We don't destroy a good thing. So I figure we'll just read through them. If something troublesome comes up, then we can do an ipavu. There's some fun things in here. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the theology, because this brings up some interesting things. But besides it, I figure we'll go through this. I printed out all of Vespers. So the first whole set of things is in the second tone.
So that's just the hero. So first troparia for the prophecies. Now what?
Oh, do you want me to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, just
wait a minute. Where are the troparia?
Sure.
And then for the entreaty, what the devil's that?
Yeah. So how this works? So on most instances of Christmas, what you have is the Vesperal liturgy of Saint Basil the Great, and so you have Vespers, which at the entrance. For normal Vespers, you switch over to liturgy.
So this is Christmas Eve.
This is Christmas Eve.
Right, okay.
And so on most instances, you do Vespers, only the first half of Vespers.
I see.
And then you're left with the Latia and the Apostica when you do them.
Right. Okay.
So what ends up happening is that the Latia, because what you would normally do is then you would do a vigil for Christmas. But you've already done Vespers as part of liturgy, so then you have this weird thing.
The first part of it anyway.
It's like you have Latia and Apostica, but then you also have Matins, and how do you fit them all together? So what ends up happening is that you essentially do the Latia portion, that entreaty, which is written there.
Oh, okay.
So then you do that as part of the vigil, and so you have kind of a different vigil than you would normally. And you have Latia and Apostica as part of that, and then that feeds directly into Matins. So
this is after the liturgy, though.
Yeah. But the troparia of the prophecies are part of
the liturgy. No. Yes.
Yep.
So you had the first chunk. You had the first part of Vespers, then you go into the liturgy.
So
and then you do this.
Let me write it on the
on
the board. And this is when Christmas falls on like a weekday.
That's right.
If Christmas falls on a Sunday, then it's a different structure because of how everything works.
Yeah.
And if it falls on a Saturday, I think it's different too. But in general, and then sometimes if it falls like that, then you move some of the services, and I'll show you what they are. So the first thing is you have royal hours. So there's the service of the hours, but the reason why they're called royal hours is because those are the only hours services that the emperor would actually come to.
Oh, is that right? I never knew that.
Yeah, so they're royal, and they're all done together. Okay. So they're done 1, 3, 6, and 9. And so these are where the emperor, would be there. So that's why they're royal. Emperor? How do you spell emperor?
Just
is it
E. And E is at the. No, it's the other way around.
E, yeah, E, emperor.
Okay, yeah. So the royal hours are there, and so the structure of the hours is that in general you have 3 psalms. Every hour's service is composed of 3 psalms, and then you have kind of the hymns of your day. With the royal hours, you end up beefing them up a good bit, so that you also have idiomena, which are, I don't know if you're familiar, so that just the very unique hymns. Yeah. That's the only one of its kind. Mm-hmm. So you have specific ones for Nativity.
And plus readings.
You have readings. You have Old Testament readings. You have New Testament readings. So you also have Epistle and Gospel. And then you kind of finish it like around your hours. Yeah. And then you go to third and do the same thing. So this set of services, which like generally the hours, this is 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, approximately.
That's quick.
You can do it in 10 minutes.
By Greek standards, that's quick.
Regular hours.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but royal hours,
Yeah,
this would take
go
maybe
forever.
2 to 4 hours, this thing.
Right.
You know, depending upon how you do certain things. We're going to do them here, but we probably won't do them Byzantine style. It depends. I have to ask Father how much time he's expecting them to take, in which case we might just do Russian to keep them going. But after the royal hours, these are done sometime in the morning. Then you have the vesperal liturgy of Basil the Great. And that essentially is just the opening psalm, the Stichera, and then goes into the entrance, and then it goes into liturgy. But
so you sing "Oh Gladsome Light" and then you go into the liturgy.
You sing "Come Let Us." Oh, you do. Actually, look what it is. Whether it's "Oh Gladsome Light" or whether it's "Come Let Us Worship." I think it's "Come Let Us Worship."
Is it?
Yeah. And they enter.
You kind of join the liturgy in progress, is where you enter.
Yeah, essentially.
Right? Yeah.
And they come out with the gospel book, which is one of the few times they actually make an entrance with the gospel book during Vespers. I have to look at what it is.
I think you're right.
I should know that, but yeah. But in here, normally you would have readings after this, and so then in a regular Vespers, so what they do is, because this is like super Vespers, because it's for a big feast, Pascha has 15 readings, Theophany has 12 readings, and then Christmas has 10? Something like that.
Old Testament readings.
Yeah, Old Testament readings. I have to look at the number.
Mm-hmm.
And but then you intersperse in here the Old Testament readings, and there's a good number of them, a good chunk. And in the midst of those Old Testament readings, you have those troparia to the for the prophecies.
Oh, okay.
And so at a certain one, then you kind of split it. It's like 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then you split, and then 5, 6, and then you split.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to look at what the organization is. And those fit in the middle, and it's kind of like a little, almost like your intermission, kind of like your little break, to tell you, kind of to keep people knowing where things are going. And so then those troparia of the prophecies fit there, and then after that you sing as many as have been baptized into Christ, and then you go into the full liturgy. What I was told before, which is kind of interesting, and so for Pascha this works in a certain way, and all this is modeled after Pascha, so the entire structure of this is modeled after Pascha. So if you look at the Troparion of the Ninth Ode there, which they sang at the concert, Pascha is 2 days hung upon the tree. He who suspended the earth upon the waters.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that parallel.
They juxtaposition. Yeah. And so it's really, there's a lot going on there that's parallel. But over here, you don't have as many readings, because at Pascha you have 15. But the reason the readings are there, at least talking to a liturgical scholar, he said the reason the readings are there is because people are getting baptized. He was like, you need to span a good bit of time, because they need to baptize all these new converts.
Oh, interesting.
And so all the faithful are essentially, they break Vespers and they break liturgy, and they're kind of just like waiting around. So they're like, well, what do? We read the prophecies and we do all these things, and then once everybody's done, all the newly illumined come back in, and then the faithful are singing to them, as many of you as have been baptized into Christ have put on Christ. So it's our message to them is how important this is. So
that's the same reason they're there for Pascha, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So for Pascha, there's
never thought about that.
And if you think about it, Christmas is a late thing. Theophany was earlier.
Right.
So Pascha has 15. Theophany has somewhere in the middle, and Christmas has a few less, because the number of converts that would probably come in at those times, you don't need as many.
Right.
Because it's not as big of a time to bring converts in. Fewer. And it's kind of a neat thing where you have all the people, what we sing as many as have been baptized, and I kind of don't think anything of it, but if you think like you have all these people coming in and you're singing to them, it gives a whole new dimension to it. So that happens there, and then liturgy ends, and then you have a break. So this is maybe like 8 a.m. or something like that. This is 1 p.m. for Vesperal liturgy, and then you would come back for the all-night vigil. And that might start, like when I was in Mount Athos for Theophany, this is how this worked, and then 1 a.m. was the vigil, when the vigil started. And then we went till noon, I think it was. So 1 a.m. till noon. And so with this...
1 a.m. till noon, is that what you said?
Yeah, 11 hours. of course, somebody there. I went to another monastery. They're like 11 hours. They're like, what kind of a vigil is that?
Oh, not long enough.
Not long enough. No. They were like, give me 14 hours and we'll talk. So, but then after this, then as we mentioned, you have the all-night vigil, and that is composed of where you have your litia or liti or entreaty, litia plus diapostica, as part of like a compline, kind of the structure, and like all the hymns that are there. And if you look at the structure of compline with this, great compline with this, it kind of all parallels itself. And then this is attached to matins. And then hopefully this will take you to the morning, all these three together, and then that'll feed right into the actual festal liturgy, which is, in comparison to all these, is really super short. Like,
because that's John Chrysostom, right? And
John Chrysostom, and also like everything is specifically about Christmas. So there's not you've got one Apolytikia, one Kontakion.
Right.
So that set of hymns is really short. All the things like you don't do the Beatitudes,
right,
and you don't do all those other things because you just have all these short troparia for the feast. So this kind of, I don't know, it's always weird how liturgy is normally the shortest service of the day, which is kind of funny. So this, and the funny part here is that if you have the actual structure of the church, this kind of moves. There's a certain section called the entreaty where everyone would be. And that's where you would do the litia, then you make a progression into another section of the church, and so there's this movement around, which we kind of lose when you only have one section. Like we have one section upstairs. We kind of have a back section, kind of.
Sorry, what?
So in the structure of the church.
Oh, yeah. Physically?
You have like the altar area, and then you might have the chanters on this side, and you have the other chanters on this side. And then you have one section, and there's actually a curtain here. There's a curtain up here. There's a curtain back here. Then you have another section, and then there's the doors here, doors, and then you have the.
There's a curtain. There's a curtain between the chanters and the sanctuary, the main part of the sanctuary. Is that what that is?
So this is actually.
Where's everybody standing? Where's the congregation standing?
So in general, they would be in here for like the big stuff.
Okay.
And then you'd have like the penitents up here.
Oh, okay.
Those that are asking for prayers. And then you have the non Orthodox people, which are outside.
Yeah.
So if the doors are open, you might be able to hear. But in general, you're just
standing outside.
Yeah, you're in the church area. And it depends on the structure of certain monasteries and things. But this curtain is used, like let's say that the hours would be done completely out here because you don't use the altar for anything.
Right.
So actually, like maybe some people might be in here, but in general, you'd all be back here, and you do it, and then this would open, and then there'd be this progression into this space because it's a new thing. It's a new thing to do.
Oh, that's interesting.
So let's say for liturgies would definitely be in this area. You might still have people back here, but this would now be open. But for the litia, that would be back here. And in fact, I was up here at one of the vigils up in the front section, and all this was going on in the back, and I'm like, man, and I couldn't move because there were too many people. And I was like,
I want to walk around.
I didn't know they were going to be in the back. I think I have to look this up, so don't quote me on this. But this litia, this entreaty, this like this supplication type of thing. If you have the penitents back here, oftentimes their penance was to ask for the prayers constantly. And so it kind of makes sense in my mind that if the penitent people are back here, that you would do the service of the entreaty back here because that's where people are entreating. I could be completely wrong, but it makes sense in my mind. So
how much is that preserved now? The whole structure outside of the monasteries. I'm trying to think of what the different churches will do. Because I don't think we're going to do Vesper Liturgy at St. Nicholas. I think we're going to do the vigil, obviously.
Yeah.
And they'll do the royal hours in the morning, and we'll do the vigil at night. And that skips the Vesper Liturgy. Which
I love the Vesper. I love the Vesper
Liturgy. They used
liturgy.
to do it. Now I think it's because of the people not wanting to. Because the Vesper Liturgy would be in place of the vigil. Well, not in place, but it would start late at night. It go on and on until midnight. People can't do that.
Yeah, to fit it in people's schedules is a tough thing.
And that's why things change a bit.
But here we're gonna do royal hours, vesperal liturgy, and the vigil, and then we'll have liturgy the next morning. So.
Yeah, the liturgy would be the next.
Of course, it won't be all night, and it won't be nearly as long.
All back to back. How long is that gonna take?
Royal hours we will do at 8 a.m. Vesperal liturgy, I think we're doing at 5.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
And is that gonna go right into the vigil?
No, so that'll probably take us till 6:30. It should really take a long time, but I don't know how long.
Right.
The vigil's gonna be at 10.
Oh,
I think.
Okay, so it's not gonna be solid.
Yeah.
That's more like the Greek style too.
Yeah.
We have breaks.
They start,
Yeah.
and then they do till 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So vigil, I don't know how long. I've never been here for any of this stuff, so I have to ask what we're doing. But
Right.
I hope that clarifies the structure and things like that. So we'll just start singing through Vespers.
Let's find out what they're gonna do. I don't know what we can do soon.
Okay, so, and if you notice there's 8 here, 8 Stichera. For weekday Vespers you always have 6. Because this is a big feast you have 8, but it's not the resurrection, so resurrection has 10.
Okay.
But so we have 8, and this is I think where the Russians for big saints they end up giving them 8, even though the Menea, at least the Greek Menea, they always say 6. But Saint Nicholas they end up tripling certain things. I think because they want to elevate the feast to this level, to bring it to 8.
Is this unique, or did you say other feasts would have 8?
Maybe Theophany.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's about it.
Let me think of the Russians.
But everything else is 6 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do the Russian service Fridays. I'll count them.
This is bigger than normal. Bigger than a normal.
See if they
That's
do
what-
it.
yeah.
Not as
Why
big as
aren't you
pasta.
doing
Nothing's
Yeah,
as big as pasta.
exactly. We got to keep everything in check. So, Neones, out of the depths have I cried unto thee, O Lord. O Lord, hear my voice. Come, let us rejoice in the Lord as we declare this present mystery. The middle wall of partition is broken asunder. The flaming sword is turned back. The cherubim withdraw from the tree of life, and I partake of the paradise of delight, whence I was cast out before through disobedience. For the identical likeness of the Father, the express image of his eternity, taketh the form of a servant, and without undergoing change, he cometh forth from a mother that knew not wedlock. For that which he was, he hath remained, even true God. And that which he was not, he hath taken upon himself, becoming man out of love for man. Unto him let us cry, O God, who art born of a virgin, have mercy on us. So,
I didn't see when we went into the in our money. I
the
didn't
hard
see where it
chromatic?
ended. I didn't see where it ended. There wasn't a
Where what
sign.
ended?
is that the hard chromatic that you're thinking?
The hard chromatic.
So the third line?
Yeah, the third line. I didn't see where it ended. Maybe I'm missing something.
Oh,
I can't see.
you never put it in?
Oh, that's right. Because thought we were going to go on. So, but why would we?
So, right after back.
Back. Okay.
Mm-hmm. On the knee there, you would change that to be.
So we make another little. I hope.
Mm-hmm. You'd put the little, or you could put it on the. That might be the better place to put it. And you'd put the little soft chromatic symbol.
Right. Which number is?
Yeah. So that's the one.
Yeah.
If you put it on there.
Oh, you put it under the.
There'd be no space to put it on top. So you could put it on the knee, but it gets a little. It's more clear.
Yeah, it's a V thing.
Yeah. So just to clarify, let's see. We declare this present mystery. Anything that you want to go back over?
No, I mean it was
pretty straightforward.
Did we do the whole thing?
Yep.
Really? So much?
So why is there no Stichera between verse 2 and 3?
Oh, there is.
Oh, repeat Stichera.
Yeah, you repeat it. Yep. And mostly because there's a lot going on. It's along hymn 1, but also there's a lot of theology going on here that it deserves repeating.
Hear it again.
Yeah.
I think y'all caught that.
Just in case. So just to highlight a few things, the cherubim withdraw from the tree of life, and the flaming sword is turned back. So that's where the flaming sword is the thing that's put in guarding the tree of life. You know, because essentially we were never banned from the tree of life. We were banned from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so, but the flaming sword was put there because it's kind of like they messed up, they're not ready, guard it and kick them out. Because if they eat it, they're going to be in trouble. So now the time has come, the fullness of time, that flaming sword, which was there to guard us from harming ourselves, is turned away, and the cherubim now withdraw so that we can partake of it. And I partake of the paradise of delight. We're essentially re-entered into the Garden of Eden. We're allowed to return. And that's where, if you look at the doors, our doors are wrong upstairs, but that's where you have Michael and Gabriel. And that Michael, so the deacon exits from the door of Michael because we're kicked out of paradise by Michael. And we're re-entering paradise through Gabriel. Gabriel allows that re-enter. So that's where, and if you look, ours are backwards. And I talked to Nadine, and she was like, yeah. She was like, but that's where they were like the bolt, whatever the things are to attach them. So, but yeah, the deacon exits where who we were kicked out from, and then you re-enter using Gabriel.
Oh, okay,
and then hello, we're talking about Michael and Gabriel.
Yes, I love them.
So
they're awesome.
So we were just saying how the flaming sword is turned back through the Nativity, and the cherubim withdraw from the tree of life, and all those things, and what that means. And so,
awesome.
So we're kicked out through Michael. We re-enter through Gabriel, and that's how the icons on the altar are put, so that the deacon re-enters through Gabriel. And then the interesting thing, if you look, has anyone told you about the three icons in the middle? You have the Mother of God with Christ, and you have Christ on the other side. That the one on the left side, Mother of God with Christ, is the icon of the Incarnation. And then you have the other one, which is the Second Coming. And then everything that happens in the middle is the liturgy between the Incarnation and the Second Coming. That's where we enact our salvation.
Okay.
And oftentimes on the altar doors are the gospel books. On ours it's not, it's the Annunciation.
Which I've seen more often.
Yeah, you see both. And sometimes you actually see both on the altar doors. But the reason why they would put the gospel writers, is because that's how we enact our salvation. In the midst of between the Incarnation and the Second Coming, this is how we work it out. This is how salvation happens. So, to kind of go, so we've been returned to the Garden of Eden, paradise has been opened, and then you hear all the hymns leading up to Christmas. Make ready, O Bethlehem, for Eden hath been opened unto all. Prepare, O Ephrathah, Bethlehem, for the tree of life has blossomed forth in the cave from the Virgin. And then her womb, all the other things that it talks about. But it's all about Eden's reopened. We can partake of the tree of life because the fullness of time has come. And the tree of life blossoms first in the cave from the Virgin, and that tree is the cross. So
I've never heard that before.
Well, the tree of
all
life?
my years, no, about the tree of life, about what happened to Eden, that by Christ being born, this flaming sword has been, banished. The gates of Eden are now open. I just never heard that before.
And I was telling them that we were never banned from the tree of life. we were supposed to eat of the tree of life. But once we ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil out of turn, and we weren't supposed to do that, then they were like, all right, they're going to hurt themselves, guard it, and kick them out, that type of thing.
Put safety locks on the doors.
It's like the child things you put in the electric sockets. So now everything's been removed, the cherubim withdraw, and we're allowed to do that. Yeah. And there's a lot of other things we could talk about, but I think that's a good thing. Yep. Okay, so let's go verse number 3, Stichera B. And if you notice, they're labeling them A and B because they can't do them 1, 2, 3 and things like that, so it wouldn't make sense. Neones, if thou shouldest mark iniquities, O Lord, who shall stand? For with thee there is forgiveness. When the Lord Jesus was born of the Holy Virgin, all things were enlightened. Yet while the shepherds were abiding in the field, while the Magi did worship, while the angels sang praises, Herod was troubled. For God hath appeared in the flesh, the Savior of our souls. Cool. So that's not too terribly difficult. Not nearly as long as the previous one.
Are we actually going to sing these?
I don't know. I have no idea. It depends. I was telling them before, it really depends on how much time are we allotted. Because at some point, if you're singing these, it makes especially tone 2, in as much as it's never used for anything. I love it because there's a certain majesty. It kind of like floats on something.
It's beautiful.
And it gives a certain mysterium to, like a magisterium maybe. To we either one. I got.
As long as it's not Catholic.
No, a certain elevated quality to the feast because of how it works, and they're wonderful when you get to do it like this. We'll see. So Herod was troubled. Herod's always troubled. He's got an ego complex.
He has issues.
He's troubled by a little child. The one thing I remember listening to a lecture by one of our OCF priests in college just on Herod and these things, that we always hear silent night, holy night, all these things are calm, all these things are bright. Nothing, he said nothing was calm, nothing was bright. They were in a manger that smelled terribly probably, and then from the moment that Christ was born, he was trying to be murdered, from the moment of his from him being laid in the manger, that this whole thing was going down, that Herod sought to kill him. And then he was being tried to be killed for the rest of his life, essentially. So it's, from the beginning, you get that kind of the themology. It's going to continue.
The parent Claudia was upset that we sang Silent Night at the pageant on Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's a Western song.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
it's so nice.
It's so nice. It's pretty.
I think that the Silent East too.
Oh, it's
Silent
probably
Nice
just because
is Greek. Stichera, Greek.
Well, they translated it into Greek.
They're not. They didn't write it. I know.
It was written by a Catholic.
But they sing it. The two songs that I think that they
deserve. Is it the same words?
Is A Little Town of Bethlehem too.
Ah.
Yeah, it's the same words, but they differ from variant to variant. But
it's
Silent Night.
I thought it would be funny if they were like, Christ is born,
no.
glorify Him. Something like make it completely orthodox.
No, I think the church might have forbidden that or something. That they would take the lyrics from the Orthodox. But they use the same lyrics, but they just translate Stichera or something, whatever. But they don't. I don't think they.
We used to do it with the heretic hymns all the time. We would be like, all right, fine. They made something catchy. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take it and baptize the words.
Yeah, that's like A Mighty Fortress Is Our God. It was actually a drinking song at first.
Oh.
And Martin Luther turned it into a hymn.
Yeah. These things.
Yes.
Like the national anthem too.
Yeah.
It's a drinking song.
Let's go to verse number 5. Secure letter C. Neones, from the morning watch until night. 1 second, John.
I'm sorry, I'm at B, but I don't see C.
Yeah, flip over.
Verse 4. Wait a minute.
Number 5.
Back to page 5.
Oh.
There you go.
To page 6.
Oh, this I.
Yep.
Went the other way.
Yep.
All right.
From the morning watch until night, from the morning watch, let Israel hope in the Lord. Thy kingdom, O Christ God, is the kingdom of all the ages, and thy sovereignty is in every generation and generation. Incarnate of the Holy Spirit, and become man of the ever Virgin Mary. Thou hast shined light upon us by thy coming, O Christ God. O light of light, effulgence of the Father, thou hast made all creation radiant. Every breath praises thee, the express image of the Father's glory. Oh, you want to do it again?
Yeah.
Well, just
the express image of the Father's glory.
The express image of the Father's glory. O thou who art and hast ever been, and hast shone forth from a virgin, O God, have mercy on us.
Oh, a little different ending there.
Yep. Okay, so a few things here. One thing that I forgot to mention on the previous hymn, it says, you have enlightened all creation, and we get it here as well, that all of creation is made bright, all of it is enlightened. And the fun thing, and some of the commentators and like the little sermons of whatever, you end up saying that the shepherds, who are these oftentimes like the rough hooligans that are on the hills, that in the midst of the cold, in the midst of the heat, in the midst of all these things, beating down wolves, they become theologians. That they somehow they get softened and they come to worship the Creator, and they know something that everyone else in the busyness of the world didn't know. That like somehow, despite any of their roughness, they still have a softness in the depths of their heart. So it's not judging a book by its cover, because it's judging the heart by its softness. So that kind of thing. But we keep getting this express image of the Father's glory, which I think is, if you look at the express image, it's kind of like the same root as like the seal. The way like the king's wax seal is the same thing, that the express image is almost like this impress of what the Father looks like. It's not the Father, and it somehow bears this likeness, but it's not the same thing. But there's this intimate connection as to how it comes about, and you get this very, at least to me, very obvious pushing of anti-Arian theology, because Christmas Nativity came out of this battling against Arianism anyway. But you have at the last 4 lines, I guess, every breath praiseth thee, the express image of the Father's glory. O thou who art and hast ever been, and hast shown forth from a virgin, O God, have mercy on us. So it's kind of one by one refuting everything that Arius said. You know, you who exist, you who have always existed, you who came forth from the virgin, and you're God. Straight in that sentence, you get every single thing. It's kind of like, boom, roasted. You know, it's kind of taken down. You know,
Gnostic heresy, Arian heresy.
Yeah, if you had an Arian that walked in the church, they'd just run out screaming because it's kind of like everything right in that sentence is antithetical to what they believe. So, and it's for that purpose, you know. And hopefully to express, because I mean Arianism, especially at the time, the people who weren't able to discern the difference, like why is it important? Yeah, they're battling back and forth on each side, and then for those, it was really steeped in that the history of the time that you really need to make it bold and in such a way that everyone will be singing this. It'll be in the backs of their minds with all these hymns, and so we repeat it so that everyone gets it.
Although the hymns were written after Arianism, I mean, it was pretty much written in the light of what was in Orthodoxy. Arianism was more. I mean, it was. I know the Goths and the Northerns kept their Arianism, but
yeah.
in the Byzantine world, these were written when Orthodoxy was established.
Right, but at some point, the only reason why a nativity service ended up being formed was because of a reaction to Arian sentiments. Yeah, Neo-Arianism.
And still in the 600s, 700s, you had some of the Celtic people were skittering on Arianism. Who was that one Irish?
We had the Gothic kingdoms.
There was this one Irish monk who was...
They were all exceptions, except for the French king, the only one who was Orthodox. All the others were Arian.
Pelagius.
Pelagius,
yep.
Yes.
Pelagius,
he was in the 600s. Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was reading a book, and this is the only book I don't react to very many things, like in terms of like books especially. And this book, I was sitting there, and I was using my pen. I don't write very much in books, and I was making all these notes in the sidelines. And my friend, Father Hilarion at the time, he was there, and he looks over and he's like, "Are you okay, Nick?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, they're writing heresies in this book." It was a theology book I had to read for an early Christianity course. It was terrible. It was by Elaine Pagels. If anyone's ever read anything by Elaine Pagels.
Oh, Elaine Pagels.
And I was reading this, and I was like, "No, this is wrong." And at some point she was like, she said something about Augustine, and she was like, and how Augustine was the church believed completely in Augustine, and they said in contrast to Pelagius. And then they were describing the theology, and they said John of Chrysostom or something like that. But like John Chrysostom, they said, who was on the side of Pelagius. And I was like, oh no, we didn't. We just identified one of the biggest saints and the biggest preachers of the Eastern world with a heretic. Yes. You don't do that.
Oh, it's slowing down time.
Yeah, and so I brought that up in class, and no one else got what I was talking about. Because the teacher was like, all right, Nick, we'll just relax. And I was like, no, you have to understand, this is not cool.
Oh, this is wrong.
And no.
Do you know what kind of damage it's doing?
Yeah, no one picked up on what I was laying down, so. Verse number 7. I've gotten over it since then, but I still have the book. So, praise the Lord, all you nations. Oh, praise the Lord, all ye nations. Praise him, all ye peoples. What shall we offer thee, O Christ? For thou hast appeared on earth as man for our sakes. Of all the creatures made by thee, each offereth thee thanksgiving. The angels offer thee the hymn, the heavens, the stars, the magi, their gifts, the shepherds, their wonder, the earth, her cave, the wilderness, the manger, and and we offer thee a virgin mother. O God, who hast before the ages, have mercy on us.
And we
We'll do the last,
Yeah.
What are we going into?
Let's go a little bit before that, the page before the shepherds, their wonder, and then we'll go to the end.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Thingy threw it off. Saturn threw it off.
Yeah,
I don't have
exactly.
my cheat sheet, so I can't call it by the real name.
That's okay. I don't know what the name is, so you can call it whatever.
Saturn?
Yeah, Saturn's fine. A little squiggly. The one of my friends would always call them the little guy. It's like the little guy on the first symbol. It's like the little guy on the little guy sometimes was not a very articulate way of saying it.
Especially since you've got the little guy and then the little guy.
Yep.
Saturn followed by Saturn.
Many little guys in the mix.
Why would you have Saturn after Saturn?
Where is this?
The shepherds, their wonder there. There's the little guy, and then after wonder is the little guy. Well, of course that is part of the Nativity. So
Yeah,
it has
right.
nothing to do
Yep.
with
That's
anything.
not reason that's there, yeah.
Yep, just as a check mark.
Mm.
The shepherds, their wonder.
So it goes from soft chromatic to diatonic, soft chromatic to hard chromatic, back to soft chromatic. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we were a little less than successful.
Those little changes, yes.
Neones, the shepherds. The shepherds, their wonder, the earth her cave, the wilderness, the manger, and we offer thee a virgin mother. O God, who was before the ages, have mercy on us. And one thing and we offer thee a Virgin Mother. You will hear people go, and we offer thee. So offer thee. That's one thing. And then a Virgin Mother. So you will. That's a very common thing. So Mother.
That sounds like something Rassem would do.
Yep.
Yeah.
You may have actually heard it. That's why.
Why is this separate in hard chromatic?
Where?
This part, and we offer thee a virgin. Am I mistaken that that's hard?
No, it's hard chromatic. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And why? That's why I'm a little puzzled.
So why is it hard chromatic?
Why is it hard? Why is it such a special?
I think you answered your question.
Part?
You said you're puzzled. Does this make any sense?
Well, yes, like Joseph was puzzled.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you say. Yes, I said, but I wasn't thinking of Joseph.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Virgin Mother.
Yeah.
As a believer.
But yeah, well, exactly.
In which case, I wouldn't have put it in hard.
But in the midst of the world, it's a concept that doesn't make sense except with the eyes of faith.
Right, I can see that.
Because it's kind of like everybody offers these material things, and we offer a Virgin Mother. Which those two things you have a paradoxical phrase right there, a Virgin Mother, that by English itself, by a sentence, it doesn't make any sense. So it's got this mysteriousness. I'll have to look at the Greek and see if it's actually written like that as well. I don't know. Yeah, I mean it might just be Papa Frem being like, let's put in some hard chromatic. So.
I guess. Yeah.
Say it ain't so, man.
Yeah.
You can just do that.
Yeah, I mean you can. It's part of the compositional thing.
Really? That you can like put in a scale change to the original one?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean
he composed it.
I mean at some point somebody in the original decided we want a scale change. So you can follow that because there's a theology behind it. Or let's say the words don't match.
Well, yeah, there's that. Of course.
Yeah, there's that. Or it could be just like I don't like those phrases. Let's put something a little bit more fancy. So.
Well, maybe it's to separate it from the rest. It's a special thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's in we,
and,
as the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for believers, it would be sung specially.
Especially because they offered, the angels offer the hymn, and then we currently offer the Virgin Mother. This is our sacrifice. Let's do the glory both now. Mm-hmm. And then there's a few things in here. First, I guess before we go that, if you go to the Doxa Stikon, so we don't have a hymn for the glory because we just have glory both now because it's big enough that we just ignore anything. Because normally the structure would be glory, a hymn for the saint. Both now you have your dogmatic Theotokian. Right. But all this is dogmatic enough that you don't need it. But also it's a feast of the Master, so it supersedes anything else. So you wouldn't do it like that. But there's a few things here, and it is mentioned elsewhere as well. When Augustus reigned alone upon the earth, the many kingdoms of men came to an end, and when thou becamest man of the pure Virgin, the many gods of idolatry were destroyed. So the key thing here, and it mentions it, I think, in the praises as well, is, and it keeps mentioning Augustus, and it keeps mentioning Herod and all these things, and that the people of Israel came under one king, and this is troublesome, or is it Judah, whichever it is. But this is troublesome because you don't have a Jewish king anymore. The lineage has been broken. And the reason why the Messiah then comes is because there was a prophecy by Jacob, which said that the Messiah will not come until the lineage has been broken. The lineage of the Jews in ruling themselves has been broken, and this is the first time where essentially a ruler has been imposed from outside, and you no longer have a Jewish king, and so that lineage has been broken, and therefore the Messiah comes. And that's, if you look at a lot of these things where it says in this specific time, the reason why they're mentioning all these things is because this is the appointed time in accordance with the prophecy from the patriarch Jacob, which is so super early, before kings were even installed. Like the nations didn't have kings yet. So it's kind of an interesting thing that it dates back really, really, really super far in the history of the Jews. So let's sing glory and then go down and then go to the Doxa Stikon. And we're just sticking in tone 2 the entire time. So.
Okay.
All right. So glory, and these are the long glories and the long both now. If you're singing this at a monastery, this might take 20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
This?
Mm-hmm. It's fun when you I got some recordings of the various things. Maybe we'll do a listening session at some point with these. It will take up the entire time. Neones. Glory to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit. How's that? Okay?
Yeah.
Both now. Both now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen. this. Yep. And I would probably breathe.
Someplace.
Amen. So even though we're breaking up, amen.
Yeah, amen. Yeah,
I'd prefer to breathe there than run out of air. Yes. When Augustus reigned alone upon the earth, the many kingdoms of men came to an end. And when thou becamest man of the pure virgin, the many gods of idolatry were destroyed. The cities came under one earthly kingdom, and the nations came to believe in one sovereign Godhead. The nations were enrolled by the decree of Caesar, and we the faithful were enrolled in the name of the Godhead. When thou our God was made man, great is thy mercy. Glory be to thee. So, either we dropped it a little bit, or
yeah,
I took it too low. One or the other.
Uh-huh.
But
It was great to sing that,
in the depths of our heart.
I like it.
If you notice again, we have a lot of the imagery of St. Paul here being enrolled in the book of life and being enrolled in the name of the Godhead. It's really this soldiery. Everyone's being enrolled under Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
We're being enrolled under Christ as his newly enlisted soldiers of Christ. Directly, same wording as the baptismal service type of things. Okay, that's good. Let's go one more. We have we started 5 minutes late, I think. Let's just do the Tropari of the Prophecies.
How do you know?
What? Oh, I'm looking at my clock.
He's got his own clock.
It's like time ends here.
Yeah, I'm going.
Time is so very.
Day, man.
It's like wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Yeah,
it just you go here, it's one time. You go up there, it's another time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just then there's.
I guess you're right.
Father David time and.
The Byzantine
It's the time of the kingdom.
Yeah. This is we have no concern.
Yes, we have no concern.
Now is the time.
Yeah.
It's just 6 hours.
Yes.
I love Christ's phraseology where it's like, the time is coming and now is. It's kind of like, what?
What
does that even mean? And it's like, but it's just above our it is both coming, but it also is. So the Tropari of the Prophecies. So in the midst, as I mentioned, this is kind of the breaking them up. I always wonder, is this telling the priest like where we are in case they've like lost count in the numbers? Because I mean there are reasons for these things, practical reasons. So
There
priest is sitting back there. He's kind of got lost in wonder and amazement.
Yeah. So.
That's right. He's contemplating the verses.
And then, has anyone ever talked to you guys about Bethlehem and what that means and all those things?
House of bread?
Yeah, house of bread and all those. Okay, cool. So that was born secretly in the cave. So just to talk about just the vu, if you look at the little symbol at the beginning, vu, and then you have up one. So technically we start on the.
Right.
So Neones, thou wast born secretly in the cave, O Savior, but heaven announced thee unto all, using the star as its voice. And it brought to thee the Magi who worship thee in faith. With them have mercy on us. So you might do that a little faster. But then what you would do is you would have a verse, and then there's a refrain. And so we don't have the verses written here because it's by the reader with all the readings.
But it would contain "with them have mercy on us." We repeat.
No, so then what we do is on the next page, refrain, and it brought to the Magi.
Okay, that's the refrain.
So we'll sing the refrain.
Yeah, that's what
And it brought to thee the Magi who worship thee in faith. With them have mercy on us. And then a verse, and then you do that again. And then the final time, you sing through the entire hymn, and then you end it with them have mercy on us. Or 1, 2, 3, and 1. Okay. Second tropary for the prophecies. Neones, thou hast gone forth from a virgin, O Christ, thou noetic Son of righteousness, and a star pointed to thee, the uncontainable, contained within a cave. Thou hast led the Magi to worship thee. Together with them we magnify thee. O giver of life, glory be to thee. Thou hast led the Magi to worship thee. Together with them we magnify thee. O giver of life, glory be to thee. And then, let's see. O giver of life, glory be to thee. Cool. Yeah, with that, I think we're good. The one thing with the bread of life, so you have the
Bethlehem.
Yeah, so you have Christ. You have Christ, who is the bread of life, being laid in the house of bread, laid in a manger to be eaten as food for all the faithful, not by irrational animals, but now by the rational, because the irrational are there just sitting by, but he's laid out so that we may partake of him. But then the interesting thing I had was, so the interesting thing that I found is that, okay, so you have the bread of life, which is in Syrian, I believe the word for the bread that's used for the liturgy is flesh. So you have the bread of life, but you also have flesh.
See, that's the thing. The Syriac is lehem, is flesh.
Is flesh. In
not
Arabic.
Yes, in Arabic too.
Well, I asked a friend. I was like, well, do you know what Bethlehem means? She was like, house of flesh, and I was like, whoa. I was like, you have house of bread and house of flesh being commingled in the same language.
It's funny that the Hebrew has one and the Syriac has lehem.
And it's
meat and flesh. So bread and flesh.
Is it
and
because
now it's in Christ?
Is it because of Christ is? Because Christ is born.
Right.
Because you need to unify flesh and bread and bring them together in one, and Christ brings that together. But the languages already have it. So it's this weird juxtaposition of flesh, bread, and Christ being the two of them coming together in a place, in the manger being the place where the animals eat. You know, the manger. So their little trough. So it is now fed. It is now filled with Christ instead of with the little fodder that would be for the animals. So all these little things. So next week
I will not be here next week. I'll be in Philly.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, I'll be around.
Monday, yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
It's still
Maybe
before Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
December 22nd, I think.
This is the pre-Christmas visit to the family to tell them we love them, give them their gifts, and head back here for